So there's some serious speculation right now over the Mahershala Ali led Blade movie. There was recently an earnings call with Bob Iger, who does these to pump up the investors of Disney. He'll go through his whole slate of films and tell them what's being released. However, when he did this the other day, there was no mention of Mahershala Ali's Blade movie. This project has been absolutely cursed since its inception. It's had a bunch of different directors and writers that have all came and left the project. We even had Nick Pizzolatto, yes, of True Detective fame, season 1. He was the creator and driving force behind the writing of that show, came in to take a crack at the script. Now, this was ordered by Mahershala Ali because he worked with Nick Pizzolatto in True Detective season 3, which I highly recommend, by the way. It's much better than season 2. Original plans were going to have this Blade movie starring Mahershala Ali set as a period piece. Now, that's unfortunate because at the time, Ryan Coogler of Black Panther fame had just started production on his vampire movie for Warner Brothers, starring Michael B. Jordan. That is also a period piece. It looked like MCU/Disney had scrapped the ideas of a period piece. Hence, we get a couple of more writers come in. To talk about the subject that we need to get into today, Deadpool and Wolverine has to be spoiled. So this is your last chance, guys. We are going to get into it full spoilers. But I've got to say, though, Ryan Reynolds did sort of blow the whole lid off who was cameoing in this film at Comic-Con prior to the film's release. A very bizarre move in my mind. But anyway, Wesley Snipes, for me, is peak entertainment when it comes to these Blade movies. His portrayal as Blade is so bloody cool. If you look in the dictionary, you won't see something about temperature. No, you'll just see a picture of Wesley Snipes. First Blade movie is one of my favourite movies of all time. When I was younger, growing up, we used to go to Blockbusters on a Friday night, rent a couple of films, a couple of VHSs when they were still a thing. And one of the main films that I was always renting or getting my brother to rent, because I wasn't old enough at the time, was that first Blade movie. To the point of like third trip to Blockbusters when I was like, oh, can I get that film again? My mum caved in, she bought me the film, she's a goddamn hero. It also meant numerous days of me running about the house with the VHS on in the background, with a Batman toy cape on because it was the closest thing that looked like Blade's trench coat at the time, a plastic sword from the indoor toy market, and we were running about the house like a total freak, doing spin kicks to imaginary vampires on the couch. Blade meant the world to me, and it still does. It's still one of my favorite films of all time. I recently watched the trilogy all again this year and they still hold up. Maybe it's not Blade Trinity. There's an argument that could be made that Wesley Snipes' portrayal as Blade did more for that character than Marvel ever did. He never had any big staple comic runs. Yeah, he did have his own series of comic books, but there was nothing you could point to and say, that's an amazing run, you need to check that out. There's a sort of good run in 2003, 2004 that's labelled Max. Yes, these are the more adult-orientated comic books from Marvel. The Punisher has got a really good run in the Max label. Highly recommend that. It's the closest thing to sort of the Snipes movies we would get in a comic book form. That being said, though, even that comic book run didn't catch the magic of that first Blade film. Not only did countless adults love this, like my brother back in the day, I could also see a lot of kids my age in the late 90s, early aughts that, you know, we weren't living in the comic book movie landscape that we are today, where there's a dozen that come out every year. It was very much any sniff of a comic book superhero film vibe. I was trying to get my hands on it and I was watching it, no matter how good or bad it was. Blade, however, really stood out because it's an excellent film that still holds up very well today. So when someone asks me, should we bring Wesley Snipes back as Blade? Why do I not immediately say yes? Why is there some hesitation? I think the biggest hurdle that a new iteration of Blade was going to face was the casting. So to my surprise, when I'd heard that Mahershala Ali, yes, the award-winning actor, had rang Kevin Feige and been like, what the hell is going on with Blade? And he'd be like, oh, interesting. Didn't even think of that, but now you mention it, Mahershala Ali, let me get the hat company on the job. We'll announce it tomorrow. It seems pretty stupid now looking back on that in hindsight, because Kevin Feige clearly didn't have a story for Blade. This was very much an Oscar-winning actor ringing a producer saying, look, I want to be one of your most popular characters that you haven't even touched yet. And Kevin Feige prematurely saying yes, and we'll announce it. Personally, I think Mahershala Ali has absolutely everything what it takes to be Blade and give it charisma and personality the same way Wesley Snipes did back in the 90s. When they announced Mahershala Ali as Blade, that was in, yes, 2019. What the hell is going on? So after multiple writers, multiple directors, 5 years gone by, then walks Deadpool and Wolverine. They have entered the chat. One of the best cameos we've seen in recent memory. Well, it certainly was for me. And my audience in that theatre, when we were watching Deadpool and Wolverine, as soon as that Blade cameo comes on, we see it's Wesley Snipes, the place actually erupted. And what did I think of his performance in that film? It was great seeing him, but we didn't get enough of him. There was some cool one-liners that he had that were very sort of satirical. He's very much in on the joke here with Ryan Reynolds, that there's been all this like chaos behind the scenes with Mahershala Ali and them trying to cast a new Blade and trying to get this new Blade movie a go. I'm sure Wesley Snipes is secretly sort of very happy that they're having so much trouble with it. And especially now that Ryan Reynolds has just come out with a tweet saying that we need to get Blade's Wesley Snipes back for one last run, a Logan-like movie. Do I think this is a good idea? I'm not sure, guys. It was only as of maybe 2 weeks ago when Deadpool and Wolverine got released that now Blade is sort of MCU canon in a way. Do I necessarily want to see a semi-watered down version of Blade? No. Now, however, I can hear you screaming at the screen and you're saying, "Ah, but Deadpool and Wolverine was R-rated, Ellis." I know it was, but this is Deadpool we're talking about here. Very sort of juvenile as well as being heavily R-rated. Blade takes a more serious approach. I'm only guessing here. I'm wondering if the higher-ups at Disney have allowed this R rating with Deadpool because it is so juvenile. If the tone of the film was way more serious and way more darker, say the horror edge that Blade's gonna have, I'm not necessarily sure how comfortable they would be making it R-rated and a little bit scary too. All that being said, maybe take my pessimistic view out of it. I mean, you've literally got Deadpool running about Disneyland right now. This is a cocaine-sniffing, pegging-loving...
Pegging isn't new for me, friendo, but it is for Disney.
Marvel character that is now running around Disneyland. I'm sure Kevin Feige is toying with the idea right now. He was interviewed on the press release for Deadpool and Wolverine, and he was asked about the R rating, and he pretty much came across like it was going to be R rated.
I mean, for the last few years, as we've been trying to crack that movie, the most important thing for us is not rushing it and making sure we are making the right Blade movie, because there were some great Blade movies years ago. They were all rated R. Yeah. So I think that's inherent, like Deadpool, inherent with the character of Blade.
So exactly.
Maybe they will go full on with it when it comes to Blade, because I think that character absolutely warrants it. Not just because of the blood and whatnot, but because of the horror. There must have been a regime change at Disney, because would that be allowed 5 years ago? I don't think so. But I think Marvel, MCU, Disney are all in on making money right now. So they just want to please people. And by the sounds of the majority online, people want Wesley Snipes back. On one side, I absolutely love Wesley Snipes and I would love to see him again. Do I think he's still got it at 62 years old? Well, yeah, I do. But at the same time, Mahershala Ali is an amazing actor. And that was a massive hurdle to get over, and we got over it, and it was an amazing casting. They've just obliterated that opportunity since 2019, and they haven't been able to get their heads together and come up with a story for Blade. Some of the rumours that were coming out about this film, that it was going to focus on Blade's daughter and whatnot, we do not need to be doing that in the first iteration of this MCU Blade. Put the focus on the man himself. Ryan Reynolds has made a massive push for Wesley Snipes coming back as Blade, and I sort of get it. A number of years went by where we were all under the impression that Ryan Reynolds hated Wesley Snipes because of Blade Trinity. I think there was a little bit of tension on that set.
I heard Wesley Snipes talking about a fourth movie, coming back into the game. And I was wondering, would you be interested to do another one, to be back as Hannibal King, or...
Motherfucker, are you out of your damn mind?
To be fair, I think there was tension all around Unblade Trinity because David Goyer, even though he'd written the first two movies, didn't have a handle on that third movie. An old man Logan style Blade, is that necessarily what I want? Just to fix some sort of nostalgia-ness? I don't think so. And the only thing I can relate this to is when Michael Keaton came back as Batman last year. Now, guys, if you know me, Michael Keaton's my favourite Batman, right? The fact that he was coming back in The Flash, I never thought that would happen in a million years. And he did a relatively good job, but it was in a pretty terrible movie. I like it more than most, but I can understand it's got a slew of problems. Now, the multiverse does open multiple doors for all these cameos to come back, just like Deadpool and Wolverine. But does that make a good film? Does that make a good series of films? No, I don't think so. I'm over the multiverse. Do I need to see a version of Blade that isn't the same version of Blade that I had in them 3 films from New Line Cinema back in the day? I don't think I do. It's a weird one making this video because Blade, the first one, is legit in my top 10 films of all time. It's quite sacred in my own eyes. It means a lot to me as a film. Do I want that ruined by the MCU? There's about 12 years of difference between Wesley Snipes and Mahershala Ali, so time is getting on for the both of them. Who knows? Neither of them could get this role and they could cast someone completely different, which I think would be a huge mistake for Marvel. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think of all this Blade drama. Should they just keep going forward with Mahershala Ali or should they bring Wesley Snipes back? Let me know in the comments down below. Until next time, guys, I'll catch you later.